Hi, everyone enjoying the new innovation in the LCS around enchanters in the top lane using smite and abusing objective bounties and passive gold generation? I know I am. Always the meta-pushing region LCS is. Well, enjoy while it lasts and might go back to playing the usual team fighting scaling style unless you're religious, of course. But maybe if some of these changes come to fruition, the meta might just be shaken up enough to spice up pro play, or at the very least give you, or the pros, some relief from Zeri and Qiyana in solo queue. We've got Smite Enchanter top changes, some Bruiser champion tweaks, and of course, lots of Zeri nerfs in the 12.4 patch breakdown. Alrighty, let's address the Smite Qiyana top meta problem, or at least let's hear how Riot's attempting to solve it for now. As Phlox, one of the lead game designers, put it, they're quicker changes to, quote, pull down the support item top meta, end quote, and that these changes aren't likely going to be the last ones. Now notice how they said support item changes. Well, that's because that's where the majority of the changes are headed, not to any specific enchanter. More specifically, to combat, quote, degenerate gameplay, and yes, that's a direct quote, the changes are as follows. On all support items, the minion farming penalty is going from 4 minions per minute to 2 minions per minute up until the 5-minute mark, and then back up to 4 minions per minute. And also that 50 to 80% scaling diminished gold penalty is now also more severe during those first 5 minutes of the game. There are some changes also coming to CS bounties. They are now based on the number of support gold income items on each team, rather than assuming that each team has one support item, because we can't have nice things now. And finally, objective bounties. If you have 2 or more support items, again, that's items with a gold generation passive, on your team, the odds of an enemy gold lead leading to an objective bounty being triggered are way down. Alright, to champions we go. Aatrox is one of 2 bruiser-type champions that hasn't been helped too much by the sweeping changes to his class's items, at least not yet. The sweet spot damage as a result on his Q, the Darkened Blade, usually crits for an additional 50% of the damage the ability deals, but now that's being ramped up to 60%. Should apply to all 3 casts. Amumu still has 2 Qs, let's not get our underwear in a bunch here, and not only that, the Sad Mummy is getting some buffs. It's not a straight-up reversion to his E Tantrums nerf last patch, but it's a correction to it. Since the damage reduction got capped at 50% of each instance of physical damage, the baseline passive numbers are being bumped up to help him out in the early game. Instead of a 2 to 10% baseline, he now reduces 5 to 13% of incoming physical damage. Early game ADCs, your time might yet be returning. Ashe is one of 4 ADCs getting buffed this patch, along with Kalista, Lucian, and Xayah, and for the Frost Archer, the buff Singular is as follows. Her ult, Enchanted Crystal Arrow, is having its projectile speed increased from a flat 1600 units per second down to a baseline of 1500, but increasing by 200 per second of travel time, capped at a max of 2100 units per second, which, for those of you keeping score at home, is basically a 30% increase hit at the 3-second mark. Blitzcrank is getting a small nerf to his passive health regeneration to make him easier to punish. It's going from 8.5 health per second to 7.5. Dr. Mundo goes where he pleases, including into the nerf column. Again, apparently. A few for the Madman of Zaun here to take his power down a notch in the top lane. His AD growth per level is going from 4.2 to 3.5, meaning that at level 18, it'll top out at 120.5 instead of 132.4. Also, his ultimate maximum dosage is now a 110-second cooldown at all ranks instead of going down to 90 at rank 3. Illaoi buffs. One Tricks Rejoice. Another bruiser up top that hasn't gotten the intended boost from her class's item changes just yet, so she's getting some attack speed buffs and some help to her W to compensate. Her base attack speed is going from 0.571 to 0.625, so pretty nice there, and then her W Harsh Lesson now deals 3 to 5% plus 2% per 100 AD of her target's max health to 3.5% plus 4% per 100 AD of her target's max health. There's also a bug fix to her E that you can read about in the link to our description, right down there. Come on, you know you want to. Kalista's getting a slight survivability buff in the form of a buff to her base armor, taking it from 21 to 24. Lucian is getting the mana decreased on his Q so that Essence Reaver isn't quite as early a requirement on him. It'll go from 50 to 90 mana to 48 to 80. Nami players who didn't like the nerf she got to her E, well, good news. It's been reverted, so that on-hit damage per hit is back to 25 to 85 plus 20% of her AP from 20 to 80 plus 20% of her AP. Neeko's getting a hitbox resizing, yes, you heard that right, going from 80 units across to just 65. This should apparently put her in line with other champions like her. Also, her Q, Blooming Burst, is having its additional bloom damage go from baseline 40 to 120 to 40 to 140, keeping the AP ratio the same, and her W, Shape Splitter, is getting a huge buff in the cooldown department, going from 20 to 16 seconds to 16 to 12 seconds, just 4 seconds lopped straight off the top. Nunu and William, let me check my notes here. Sorry, Willump. Nunu and Willump are getting some nerfs to their tankiness while leaving clear speed untouched. Health per level is going from 82 to 76, meaning that at level 18, base max health is at 1,832 instead of 1,934. Now, Nunu's Q is getting some pretty huge nerfs, however. Instead of healing 60 to 172 plus 72% of his AP plus 8% of his bonus health, it now heals for only 45 to 129 plus 54% of his AP plus 6% bonus health. So nerfs across the board there. Qiyana, 5th time in the patch notes since 11-18, dang. This time is to her passive Royal Privilege. The additional physical damage that it deals on each proc is having its scaling toned down from plus 55% bonus AD to plus 40% bonus AD, with every other component staying the same. Rumble Top, remember that? Well, it might be back, at least if these buffs take him in the direction that Riot wants them to. It's a simple but potentially pretty significant buff that brings his armor up from 31 to 36 at level 1. The next set of buffs are to, in Riot's words, the Rift's #1 mama's boy. So, Sett buffs. Yeah, his health growth per level is going from 93 to 100, meaning that at level 18, his health will sit at a baseline of 2,300 instead of 2,181. Y'all had fun with those Veigar buffs last patch? Support Veigar? Where we at? Okay, there he is, officer. Cuff him. No more support Veigar. His base armor is going down from 23 to 21, but his armor growth is going up per level from 3.75 to 4, so his max level armor does get buffed from 86.75 to 89. Ooh. But otherwise, some more nerfs to his E, Event Horizon, the baby cage. The cooldown is going up from 18 to 12 seconds to 20 to 12 seconds. Lots of early power taken away, making the tiny Master of Evil just a little bit... forget it. He knows it's a short joke. Xayah's next up, and here's your fun fact for the day. Aside from 2 hotfixes, 1 buff and 1 nerf, this set of buffs will make it 11 straight rounds of buffs for Xayah without receiving a nerf. The last time she was nerfed was in 9.22 in November of 2019. For reference, that was Senna's release patch. Wild. Anywho, the buffs this time around are to give more power to her crit build as opposed to her lethality builds. Her E Blade Caller will now have its crit scaling buffed from a flat 0.5% to 0.75% more damage per 1% critical strike chance. Zeri again finds herself in the patch notes, and probably with good reason. Some of you were apparently going a bruiser build on her, shame on you. Her uncharged basic attack is having the magic damage it deals go from 15 to 40 from levels 1 to 18, plus 4% of your AP, to 15 to 25, plus 3% of your AP, but the damage increase onto enemies below 35% health is going way up from 300% to 500%. The charged basic attack slow is going from 20 to 40% to 14 to 50% based on her Q rank, and the slow duration itself now lasts just 1 second as opposed to 1.5. Her Q Burst Fire is losing base damage and now sits at 9 to 25 instead of 10 to 30, with the AD ratio staying the same, but Burst Fire's critical strikes now also multiply its base damage in addition to its AD ratio, and on top of all that, the bonus AD she gets from any attack speed over the cap will now take 60% of that excess amount instead of 50%. Her W Ultra Shock Laser is seeing its slow lose a lot of power early, going from 50 to 70% to 30 to 70%, and the cooldown is going from a flat 10 seconds to 13 to 9 seconds based on rank. Moving down the line, Zeri's E, Spark Surge, is having its cooldown increased late, moving from 23 to 17 seconds to 23 to 19, and the cooldown reduction the ability gets from hitting enemies with basic attacks or abilities is now just 1 second per instance instead of 1.5. And last but certainly not least, the bonus attack speed her ult Lightning Crash gives her if she hits someone with it is now just 30% across all ranks instead of 35 and 40% at ranks 2 and 3 respectively. Oh, and by the way, Tear of the Goddess no longer treats Zeri's Q like an ability, but her basic attacks will count, thanks to a bug fix. A couple of minor item component changes to round out the patch notes. Rejuvination Bead now costs 300 gold instead of 150 and offers plus 100% base health regen instead of 50%, and also only sells back for 40% of its original price now instead of 70%. By extension, Crystalline Bracer now costs 150 more gold. Knight's Vow's combined cost is going down to keep its total cost unchanged, while gaining that additional 50% health regen for a total of 200%, and Warmog's armor is having its combined cost come down 150 gold to, again, keep its total cost unchanged, but this time with no stat differences. Last few bits and bobs here. Reneata Glasc is joining the game on Thursday, February 17th, along with Firelight Echo, Brave Phoenix Xayah Prestige Edition, and Shockblade Qiyana, Shen, and Kassadin. No other big item changes this time around, but you can probably bet that'll change by next patch. Until then, hit us up on our Twitter and Instagram, both at .esports, our Facebook, and of course, right here on our YouTube channel. And please like and subscribe to stay up to date on new content. I've been Henrique Demore. As always, thank you so much for watching, and take care.